This is indeed another episode of my new series, Perfect Zens. And today I have an extremely important album to not only me, but music in general. When this album came out in 1999, it took the world by storm and announced that this band was back with a force. They got one of their guitarists that had just came back into the fray after many years of rehab and just needing to take a break from music and just do his own thing. And the band in question and the album in question are the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and the album is Californication. This is the 2012 pressing done by Chris Bellman over at Sony Music Studios. The 180 gram limited LP set. And limited, they aren't kidding when this is limited. I got lucky. I went to my local Barnes & Noble and I just found this in the R section and I had to pick it up. I was actually thinking about picking up a Green Day record, or I believe it might have been a Bowie record. But then my wife actually goes behind the counter in the R section and actually sees this and says, "Oh, look, they have this album." And I'm like, yep, picking it up. So the price tag of $38, I think it was $38.99 or $39.99, something like that, and I did not hesitate. I picked it up, and I brought it home, and then I had to work a couple days, so I couldn't actually listen to it for a while. But then as soon as I did, ooh boy, I remembered how much I love this record and why it's the perfect Zen. But before I get into that, I want to do a little bit of a discussion of the vinyl itself and the mastering. So of course, you have the amazing cover. And one thing I love about this pressing is the back. You'll have each side of the record, or you'll be able to tell how many tracks are on each side. So side 1, 4 tracks. Side 2, 3 tracks. Disc 2, 4 tracks. And then the last side, 4 tracks. Not a lot of records do this. It's a small detail that I really like about certain pressings. And this pressing does that. So you know, if you don't know the album inside and out, and it's your first time buying it on a vinyl or whatever, then you can tell when to flip the record over. And so open the record, it's just a single sleeve LP, nothing too fancy. Wish it was a gatefold, but that's a rant for another day. They are, of course, 180 gram albums, LP. Now they come in regular, just rice paper inner sleeves, nothing too crazy. I took those out and replaced them with my MoFi Fidelity sleeves. I love these things. Here's disc 1. Now disc 1, I noticed with this pressing, I have a little dirty. Gotta clean it a little bit. I'll admit, I've got some cat fur on it. It's what happens when you have cats, even if they don't come in here all that often. You get cat fur everywhere. It's just an inevitability. Cats and vinyl records don't mix, let's just say that. But anyway, my pressing here has a blue and red center label. Now, doing some research, I don't know what the difference is between this one and the other 2012 pressings. Because the 21 to 2012 pressings that I've seen all have the Warner Records labeled in the middle, and it's a white. It's like they're basically their center label. But my copy has a custom center label with the track list on it. Like, it has the motif of the album cover. So LP 1 is going to be the pool, and you have Warner Records right there. And then LP 2, just slip that back into there like that. LP 2 has the red, which is basically the pool. There. Trying to be careful with these things here. There's side 2 of disc 2. Now, the first thing about this album that I love is just the cover in general. Since I got all my records and everything here on the floor, I'm just going to post a picture of it right up here in the corner somewhere. But man, this cover is so striking right off the bat. As soon as you saw this in 1999, most likely in a CD store or like a record store that started selling CDs, because by 1999, this was like peak CD era. By 99, there weren't really any records pressed. Now, I have heard that there are pressings of this record out there that came out in 1999, because to my surprise, records did still get pressed in the 90s, but a very minuscule amount. So if you can find a version of this album that's an original pressing, it's probably worth a ton of money. And that leads me into one of the controversies of this album, and that it is a victim of the loudness wars. What are the loudness wars? Well, without getting into this long spiel about it, it's basically producers and just people who are mixing music giving a big middle finger to compression. So they just want to mix the records as hot and as loud as possible, which just creates a lot of distortion and clipping in the music. And let me tell you, I had a CD pressing of this album, and it definitely suffered of that. By the end of the album, you almost had a throbbing headache because of just how distorted and how loud it can be. And subsequent CD pressings and even vinyl pressings that were done later on had this issue. I've heard the 2019 picture disc version also has these same issues, which I don't know why you want to listen to a picture disc anyway. They don't really sound that great. But before I get on a vinyl hipster high horse, I would like to say that this pressing mitigates most of those issues. Now, because the record was recorded that way, it was recorded that way in 98, 99, so you can't really do much to the initial recordings. But what Chris Bellman did, and the guys over at Sony Music Studios did, is they were able to make it just sound fuller, sound richer. They were able to cut a lot of that clipping. They just made it sound cleaner. If you're going to start an album with an opener, Around the World is how you do it. Because as soon as that needle hits that record, you just hear the pounding drums and the guitar and Kiedis is screaming. Now, the difference between the record and the CD, if you have the CD on too loud, you'll get a headache immediately. But on this, I can blast this pressing, and as soon as I put it on, and it's loud, but you can still hear everything. And that's the importance. Dynamics. Dynamics are important. And I think the dynamics of this pressing are just out of this world. Chris Bellman is certainly a master of his craft, and any pressing that he has worked on, I would totally recommend. By far. I believe he's also done the Pink Floyd reissues from 2016, and I've had a few of those in the past, and they sound fantastic. But, man, as soon as you put this record on, Around the World starts heavy, melodic with that chorus. And then Parallel Universe is almost the same kind of thing. Heavy, but has a little more of a somber tone. The end of these two songs, where it's almost like a jam session, it's just crazy. And the way you hear the drumming and the bass comes in and out at certain times. The guitars are always just crashing in. And that's what you want from an album like this. Especially a Chili Peppers album, where you want to hear that bass. Because Flea just, like most other Chili Peppers records, he's almost the star of the show on this whole album. Like, he's in the background, but when he pops in, you can hear him popping in. Flea, to me, is the second best bassist of all time. Only bassist that beats him is the almighty Geddy Lee. But minus that, Flea is like top tier bass player for me. The guy can just shred that bass, and he's been known to do that for many years now. And then from the amazing Parallel Universe, we get to the grand and the epic Scar Tissue. One of the first singles to be released from this album, actually. Has a really cool video. This song has a really nice, atmospheric, kind of beachy vibe almost. I love how John Frusciante's guitar is just very clean. From between the rhythm section and the solo. It's just a masterpiece in Red Hot Chili Peppers balladry. One of the best ballads I think they've ever released and ever will release. To me, Other Side is more of a contemplative track, a little more retrospective, a little bit more serious for a Chili Peppers song. You don't really have too many tracks like that, at least up to this point, that are more serious in tone. They take more of a mature stance. And overall, this album as a whole takes more of a more mature stance when it comes to the instrumentation and the lyrics. Gone are the days of like Taste the Pain or Skinny Sweated Man in a Green Suit or Backwards or like Sexy Mexican Maid, you know, songs like that that are a little bit more like funk rap and the lyrics are kind of like sexual and they're kind of out there and like it's the frat boy culture of the old days, that's gone. The new Chili Peppers really starts with Californication. You could argue that One Hot Minute had a little bit more of that maturity and more of that songwriting. Hell, even Blood Sugar Sex Magic had some of that writing with songs like I Could Have Lied or Under the Bridge. Even Power of Equality, which is actually more of a hip-hop song for them, has a lot of just biting lyrics. But I feel like the maturity really was full bloom on Californication. This album is just their magnum opus in terms of lyrics, musicianship, and just the overall package. The one thing I have complaints about with the Chili Peppers is that some of their stuff does tend to get a little weird in places. And on great albums like Mother's Milk, there's weird songs that kind of break the mood of the rest of the album. And it just like kind of turns me off a little bit to the rest of the album, which the rest of that album is fantastic, but you have the silly songs. Even Blood Sugar Sex Magic, as great as that album is, I feel like it hasn't aged as well in a lot of respects, even though it is still a masterpiece. There's some songs on there that you could have cut off, or there's songs that are just kind of weird. And even on Californication, there are weird songs, but nothing to the extent of their early work. You're not going to find a P or a My Sexy Man or again, you're not going to find a Sexy Mexican Maid or any song from their first like 4 albums or so, like especially the early 80s material from the Chili Peppers. I honestly would say to avoid that stuff entirely. Maybe get a greatest hits if you really want to listen to like the best of the early stuff. I'd actually recommend the What Hits compilation because that's actually really good, and I owned that on CD way back in the day. But back to Californication. Right after Scar Tissue, we get into the amazing Other Side. And this is a great single. This is a great way to finish off side 1 of the record. You've already had 2 hard hitters, and then you've had 1 amazing ballad, and then you have this great epic song to finish off side 1. Then you flip the record over, and you get the amazing, heavy, funky Get On Top. This song is just so, like, it's fun. It has some funk to it. Flash of the Old Peppers is still here, sprinkled throughout. And I think this song, along with another song that I'm going to get to later, are perfect examples of how to mix the old with the new. And this is one of those examples of that. A little fun, funky, heavy. The guitar solo on this just rips. It's very much, again, very atmospheric. And how do you follow up Get On Top? Well, I'll tell you how you follow up Get On Top. You follow Get On Top with the title track, Californication. And this has to be one of the best songs these guys have ever written. Like, this song has aged incredibly well. This album hasn't aged a day, like I said. I believe I said earlier the album hasn't aged a day. I don't think this album has aged a day. That's why, overall, I think this is their best record, because it hasn't aged at all. Towards the end, where he says, Tidal Waves can't save the world from Californication. That's such a great line, because no matter what, history's going to repeat itself. Things don't change. People don't change. And if you want to get into lyrics, just get right to the opening of the song right away. It gets you. Psychic spies from China tried to steal you in my isolation. Little girls from Sweden dream of silver screen quotation. And if you want these kind of dreams, it's Californication. That right there sets the tone of this song. If the somber guitar picking didn't, the lyrics definitely do. They stick the landing entirely. Much different song for the Chili Peppers, Porcelain. Now, I don't know what this song's about. I have the lyrics right here. I don't know what the hell the song's about. Is it about a toilet? I don't know. I don't want to make fun of the guy, but I have no idea what the hell these lyrics are supposed to mean. I don't get it. Porcelain. Are you wasting away in your skin? Are you messing the love of your kin? Drifting and floating and fading away. I don't get it. I don't know. It probably has some, it may be a double entendre or has a different meaning. I don't know. I honestly don't even know. See, this is one of those songs I don't get it. I like Dirt. This is a kick-ass song, for real, but again, it is weird. I can just picture Anthony Kiedis just like going in like the trenches of dirt, and he's just like just laying in the dirt for like 24 hours and just like pretending to be water. You know, this is why I'm thinking about him in the dirt. The earth is made of dirt and wood, and I'd be water if I could. So he's just in the dirt, kind of flowing, being one with nature. Which, hey, as a fellow monk myself, there's nothing wrong with that. And then we get to what is perhaps my favorite song on the record, This Velvet Glove. This song is amazing. Between the acoustic opening with the kind of wave-ish guitar tone that John Frusciante has, like your hair standing up on your arms. Because I'm someone where if I hear a great song, if I hear great lyrics, my hairy arms and my legs is going to be standing right up. And something I forgot to mention too with this album is John Frusciante. We know he's a kick-ass guitar player through and through, but until this album, we did not know the lengths of his harmonious vocals with Kiedis and just how good of a singer he is. The harmonies that you get on this record it's just amazing. You didn't hear anything like that on Blood Sugar Sex Magic. And since he wasn't on One Hot Minute, it was actually Dave Navarro. I don't think he had any vocal spots at all. You didn't hear it. You obviously wouldn't hear any of that at all either on that record. But this album is really the first example of John Frusciante having more of a vocal role in the group. And I'm all down for that. And you would hear it in the future. Songs like By the Way and Can't Stop on the By the Way album. And then going way in the future, in 2006 with Stadium Arcadium, you heard John Frusciante on a lot of those songs. Like Slow Cheetah. I believe he's also on Danny California, Charlie, the title track. Again, his vocals meld so well with Kiedis's. And This Velvet Glove ends the first side of the second disc. So we flip it over and we get to Savior. Now Savior, this is also another great song. I feel like it's a good way to segue to the second disc. Whoever sequenced this album, whether it be for space reasons or just because they knew it would be a good sequencing, they did a great job on the sequencing. Just how they have every song sequenced. It's perfect for vinyl. And whoever did that, I gotta give them big props. Now back on to Savior, I don't know what this song's about really either. I think it's about a man. It might be about Jesus or some kind of Messiah, judging by the lyrics when I was reading the lyrics, I was like thinking, oh, maybe it's kind of a religious song, but then again, I don't think Anthony Kiedis is really a religious guy, so I'm not totally sure about what the song's about. It's not really made clear either. So, great song, love the lyrics, just to know what they're about. And remember when I said there were two songs that harken back to the Chili Peppers' old sound? Well, this is the song, Purple Stain. This is another kind of heavy, funky track. And there's more rap singing from Kiedis, and it just flows so well with the bass and the guitar in the background, along with Chad Smith's drumming. And again, I didn't mention Chad Smith at all in this whole video yet, which is a crime because Chad Smith, again, is an excellent drummer. He comes from the school of Neil Peart, so I feel like he knows what he's doing. and he can play. He can keep a rhythm. Just listen to his drums on Around the World, or again the jam session, that jammy bit at the end of Around the World and Parallel Universe. He's just putting in fills. He's just putting in fills all over the end of that jam. It really gives him a chance to really stretch out. And again, this Velvet Glove has also another little drum beat to it. He's mixing things up a little bit, using the toms and the cymbals, and it's just perfect. Everything just melds together. But back to Purple Stain. This song is, again, one of those tracks that harkens back to the old sound of the Peppers. Again, your Blood Sugar Sex Magik, your Mother's Milk, more hip-hop vocals. A little bit of rapping mixed with the singing, which I love. I think it's great. Like, I love songs like Power of Equality, If You Have to Ask. Like, songs like that are fantastic. There's actually not many Chili Peppers songs past this album, and by the way, that really focus on the more hip-hop side of the Peppers. Because as much as I love their maturation throughout the years, they did kind of lose a little bit of the hip-hop element to their sound, and they became more of just like a funk rock band over time, which I love. But if you listen to an album like Stadium Arcadium, it's a double disc. It's 4 LPs, and it's 28 songs, and you had maybe 3 or 4 songs at maximum that have that Chili Peppers sound from the old days on it. It's like, especially Storm in a Teacup, to get a little bit off the topic. Storm in a Teacup is, I think, the most prominent of that. And not even until the second disc, like halfway through. So it's almost like a throwaway at that point, even though I like it. But it's almost like a throwaway track, like, here, we're going to give you something like the old stuff. Get out of our face, basically. Even though the album is a masterpiece and is a classic, despite it being 2 hours long. But I digress. This song, Purple Stain, I could just picture, like, Anthony Kiedis just, like, finger painting and just, like, painting Dracula and, like, Hollywood. He's literally painting a picture of, like, Dracula and Hollywood, and, like, it's just, like, almost like he's painting the pictures of the song while the song is going, and it's just really cool. Even though I don't really like the line on here where he says, I put my middle finger in your monthly blood, it's what I'm in. That's kind of weird. I don't know how I feel about that line. But everything else is great. Everything else I like about the song. And again, I love how it flows. If you guys watched my video on their latest single, Black Summer, I'll have a link to that video in the description. I gave a ton of praise to John Frusciante, so I'm not going to praise him too much on this review. But his performance on this whole album is fantastic. Because one thing you have to know in context is that this album comes after a huge hiatus from the Chili Peppers. They hadn't made an album since 1995 with One Hot Minute, which did not do very well commercially or by the fans at all. Back when that came out, people wanted another Blood Sugar Sex Magik. And unfortunately, without Frusciante, they didn't have that same magic to make another album until this record. Because you gotta think, back in like 1991, when Blood Sugar Sex Magik came out, that album was huge. It got overwhelming praise from the critics and the fans. And it's heralded as one of the best albums of all time, and I would wholeheartedly agree. Even though I did just slam it a little earlier, but the accolades aside, it's still a great record. But the problem with that album is that it got so big that John Frusciante, almost like Dave Chappelle or Kurt Cobain, he wasn't a big fan of all the fame and all the press coming after them, asking them questions and harassing them, and I really feel like that was a contributing factor to him leaving the band in the first place for the first time. He left like 2 other times after that, or one other time after that, I should say. But that didn't help, and the fact that he was actually doing heroin at that point too really didn't help much. There was tension in the band. when he was playing on stage, he couldn't even get into his performances. He would just go off in the corner somewhere and just like kind of noodle around. You know, he just wasn't really an active member of the band. So eventually, one night when they were touring, he just said, "I'm done. I'm going to quit." They did coax him to play the show, but after that, he was gone. Right around 1992, I believe, was when he officially left. Now, there are interviews with him from like 93, 94, just kind of, I think he's just talking about his solo record and why he left the Peppers and everything else. And by the way, his solo record, I've not heard it, but I have heard it's really good, and it's just like him just kind of venting with his guitar. Because again, he was still recovering. I believe he actually almost died in 94 because he was just drugged out, he wasn't eating, and he didn't look very good at all. He looked very skinny. I've seen pictures of him from that time period. He did not look good at all. So it's just good that he was able to get sober and start getting healthier again. And right around 1998, flash forward to 1998, he comes back in the band, and they're refreshed, they're recharged, they had time to really get away from each other for a few years, do their own thing, maybe spend time with their family, do whatever they need to do, and they come back in the studio, they write, they rehearse, they record, and they come back again. They come back with this masterpiece of a record. And so I think that's why, again, this is their magnum opus for me, because they had the time to take off, and they'd done with all the tension, and it was just them making a great, concise album. Back to the album itself, Right on Time follows right up after that. And Right on Time is another frantic and fast and just this, like, almost like him, like, not like scream, but like shouting the words, like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. It's great. And then the chorus is, right on time, right on time, right on time. It's a very simple song, but it's a great way to almost close out the last side of the record. It's almost punk in how fast it is. I might not go that far, but it's almost like it's probably the most punkish track you'd get on here. It's not their punk rock classic from Mother's Milk, but it's the most fast track on here. It's really exciting, and it's like you have to, like, you follow the lyrics, like, oh, da-da-da-da, it's like you follow the lyrics, and you're looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, here we go. It's nice to have the lyric sheet on hand when you listen to this record on vinyl, as a side note. Nice to have this. And finally, this album rides off into the sunset, figuratively and literally, with the penultimate closing track, Road Trippin'. This is a great little acoustic, atmospheric piece, because there's nothing on this album that sounds like Road Trippin'. This song has strings in it, which I don't think the Chili Peppers had ever used strings before in a song. It's almost like George Martin came in and recorded these strings for this one song alone, and just like left the studio, because the strings on this song are immaculate, and they really mold well with the acoustic and then just the lyrics in general. I could just picture Anthony and the band in that car from the music video of Scar Tissue just riding off in the sunset. But it's like a purple sky, little bit. Like the sky is purple, it's a nice sunset, and they're driving off. That's what I envision when I hear this song. It's a great way to end the record. Final notes, just want to say, I love this album. One of my favorite albums of all time. They showed that the Chili Peppers were back with John Frusciante, and then they would make many subsequent albums after this. 2 with John Frusciante. You had the more laid-back stylings of By the Way back in 2002, and then you had the double disc opus of Stadium Arcadium in 2006. 28 songs, 2 hours, 2 CDs, 4 LPs if you buy the album on vinyl, which I want to at some point. And unfortunately, John Frusciante would leave in 2008 or 2009. I think it's 2009 he left. And they ended up getting in Josh Klinghoffer. And if you saw my video on the Black Summer single, you'll know that I'm not really a fan of his guitar playing. He was serviceable, but he's no John Frusciante. But luckily he's back and they're touring. And actually, they're going to be hitting Fenway Park I think, in April. So anyone wants to go see that and they want to spend, $300 on tickets to go see the Chili Peppers, be my guest. Because if I had the money, I'd be going to Fenway Park and I'd be seeing them. But I don't have the money for that. Like, it's going to see Paul McCartney, spending $300 on a ticket to go see an artist. But then again, at the same time, go see these artists now, because you don't know how long they're going to tour for, especially if COVID flares back up again. So if you can, go see these artists live. I can't stress that enough, especially Paul McCartney. You don't know how much longer he's going to tour for. But Chili Peppers, they're back with John Frusciante. They're touring. The new album's out soon. And just listen to this record today. Just remind me how much I love this band and how influential they were to my teenage life and just my music taste in general. So to sum it all up, I love Californication and I love the Chili Peppers. Californication is the best of the Chili Peppers albums, and why I think it's a perfect Zen. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. Let's get a discussion going. I want you guys to tell me what your favorite Chili Peppers record is, if you have one. Do you think it's Blood Sugar Sex Magic? Do you think it's One Hot Minute? Do you think it's Uplift Mofo Party Plan? Do you think it's I'm With You? Like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the bell notification for more videos. It helps out the channel. The more subscribers I get, the more. And with all that being said, I hope everyone has a great day. And remember to keep meditating through vinyl.